Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Refracted Curvature, Brian's Logic, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Morning, Nathan.
Hello.
Morning, Kevin.
Hello.
Hey, Eli. One more.
Morning.
Truth Seeker, enthusiasm level at 30% Discord. Excellent. Just what I'd like to see. Any evidence of a physical, geometric, sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve, and is actually the hijacking of perspective? Any evidence?
Ships disappear at 1.22 miles from the bottom up.
Well, technically there can't be evidence because the horizon is an optical location that changes with weather and elevation. So if the horizon is just an optical place that moves closer and further from you and can do within an hour, then there is no way it's impossible to get evidence for what you're asking.
Indeed, we only have one horizon, and the horizon in the Begging the Question Proof of Nothing Perspective Hijacking Earth Curve Calculator was geometric and physical. The horizon in reality is a not actual location, the apparent, meaning not actual, location where the sky appears, redundant, to meet the ground. It's not somewhere you can stick a postcode. It's not a limitation to your view at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That assertion has been debunked by the Black Swan. We have shown that the horizon is beyond the limitations of an Earth sphere radius 3959. The horizon is not Earth curve. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No, because even within the heliocentric model, even within the claim that the air moves in lockstep with a rotating globe Earth, airplanes flying from commercial aircraft flying from North Carolina to Los Angeles would still only take an hour and a half because they have to fly through the air to get there. So, no, there is no evidence of axial rotation.
Right, Globe Earth claims we will see a 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns underneath things that are unattached. This is claimed to be exhibited in things like footballs, as claimed by Neil deGrasse Tyson. That would be Earth turning underneath a football that leaves the ground for you to see it from the stand seem to drift through the goal. That's Coriolis deflection, a claim thereof. Claws claim to be Globe Earth turning beneath the ball. If Earth turned underneath a football, as claimed by Neil deGrasse Tyson in this example, then Earth would also turn under blimps, drones, and aeroplanes. If Earth turned under an aeroplane, then a Charlotte, North Carolina to LA flight would only take an hour and a half, as Brian's pointing out, regardless of the anti-flat Earth rebuttal that Earth and atmosphere move together, negating the claimed Coriolis effect that we are supposed to see according to a Globe Earth that turns underneath to cause Coriolis effect claim that we do not see. The rebuttal that we won't expect to see it flies in the face of a globe claim that we will from the anti-flat Earth side. We do not have reference frames to claim. We point out that the Coriolis effect we are supposed to see is not seen.
We also point
Yeah,
out that
isn't that
there's
like?
no act.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Refracted, and then Chaos afterwards. Go ahead, John.
We also point out that there's no R value to measure, so you can't have spin without a radius. No.
Makes me smile every time you say it, I've got to be honest, John.
Well, I mean, that's technically our position. The other two are their positions.
Right. So it goes from globe claims we'll see 15 degrees an hour drift to flat earthers prove that there isn't any because we don't see any, to anti-flat earthers say we wouldn't expect to see any of the globe's claim of Coriolis drift because it's moving together, and then you say you're going to need R for that. End of argument.
Well,
So
technically,
isn't that like?
Hold on, Brian. Just Chaos next.
Putting
Sorry.
a ball.
Start again, Chaos. Sorry.
Go ahead. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Isn't that like putting a ball inside of a car and then sending the car 60 miles an hour forward and the ball rolls to the back of the van or the car?
No. So the Coriolis effect is only observable from a non-inertial turning reference frame. So you in a sealed car is the anti-flat earth response when there's no drift to observe. The Coriolis effect is not actual. That is to say that on a roundabout, you've got 3 people. 2 aren't on it, 1 is. Now the 2 people not on the roundabout throw a ball back and forth to each other and back again. To each other, back again, over the top of the roundabout. That ball moves in a straight line. From the observer's position on the roundabout, he sees the ball seem to curve because he's turning beneath it. So it's the not actual drift in the ball as you turn beneath it on a roundabout. It's only describable from the roundabout. Yeah? That's how Coriolis effect is detailed. So for there to be a Coriolis effect, you must be observing something seem to drift as you turn beneath. Make sense? We don't see that effect on Earth.
Yep.
We're not turning beneath anything. If we did, it would shorten flight times. Any more Chaos? Then go ahead, Brian.
No, that's it. I mean, the only reason why I was thinking about it is because, like, you know, the van is the thing that's turning. So we'll say the Earth, and the ball should be the thing that we see drifting, right? So as the van moves, the ball is drifting, even though it's in lockstep with the air inside the van. Or am I not understanding that right?
No, the van example isn't any good because you are in the same reference frame as the ball. So when you see it move, i.e. roll to the back of the car, that is actually rolling. It's actually taking that path. So if you turn left, yeah, and the ball did actually curve, then the ball is actually curving. Whereas what you're describing in Coriolis effect is the ball, like described, tossed over the top of a roundabout. It's always actually moving straight. So if I simplify it one step further, instead of a ball being thrown straight, have no motion at all. A tree limb observed from the roundabout will seem to come towards you if it's hanging over the top of the roundabout and you're spinning towards it. So it's the not actual effect of the branch coming towards you. It's not actually coming towards you, you're coming towards it. Likewise, if you make it slightly more complicated and have a ball tossed over the top, as you rotate beneath the ball tossed in a straight line, it looks like it's curving. It's just the looks like it's curving because you're turning beneath it. That's all Coriolis is. Something looking like it's doing something that it isn't because you're turning beneath it. So to have the effect on Earth, Earth must be turning beneath stuff to have the effect. And if we're turning beneath stuff, then we're turning beneath stuff. Drones, helicopters, hot air balloons, aeroplanes, balls when you throw them. Exactly as is claimed by Neil deGrasse Tyson. So that's the claim. We're supposed to be turning beneath stuff. Okay, so if we're supposed to be turning beneath stuff, we're supposed to be turning beneath aeroplanes. We're not. And then hear the anti-flat earth cry, we wouldn't expect to see it drift at 15 degrees an hour, as the globe claims. In other words, they go against their own claim and start convoluting it by describing how you in a train with a drone will work, when in reality it's the drone leaving an open top train that's going in a circle for the sake of argument, and you seeing the ball disappear as you throw it in the air. Well, in theoretical terms, the ball goes directly up above your zenith and then comes down again. But the zenith has changed. You've moved after it went up in the air. But from your vantage point on the train that's open top, you see the ball curve away from the train. Well, that's the not actual curved path that the ball takes when it's only gone up and down, because you've thrown it up. But as soon as you seal up the train, you're both in the same reference frame. Coriolis effect requires two. That would be the reference frame of the ball travelling in a straight line between two people over a roundabout, and the reference frame of you on the roundabout. The non-inertial reference frame is the roundabout. Non-inertial because it's an apparent effect that's being described. So you're not describing the inertia you experience, you're describing the inertia of the tree coming towards you. It seems like the tree's coming towards me at whatever rate I'm turning towards it. Well, that effect is the Coriolis force. And because you're describing it as a force, the force of the tree coming to get you, you're not going to be describing the inertia on the roundabout. You're describing the inertia, not actual, of the tree. Hence, your reference frame turning on the roundabout becomes the non-inertial reference frame. The frame of reference where you and what you are attached to are all, as far as you are concerned, stationary. You're not moving relative to the platform, and even if you are, you're only moving relative to the ground. It's not relative to the spin. Therefore, because you are spinning and essentially in a non-inertial frame of reference, not moving, the effect of you actually moving, even though you're going to be detailing a not actual apparent effect, is the tree coming towards you. So it's, oh my god, the Coriolis force, the tree's coming to get me. And someone knocks you on your shoulder and goes, no, it's actually the roundabout that's turning. The tree's not moving a smegging inch. We're moving towards it. So for this effect to happen, we would be on a turning Earth turning towards your drone when you launch it. So you launch your drone and suddenly you smack into it without you moving the sticks. Why? Well, because it's claimed Earth's turning beneath the drone. Well, that never happens. That's what we point out. Roll on, as I said earlier, the anti-flat earthers, you're not expecting to see 15 degrees an hour Coriolis effect. We wouldn't expect to see drift. The drift that the globe claims proves it spins. Any more on Coriolis? If not, we're moving on to the sun.
Yeah, I have.
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
Go ahead, Brian.
Thanks, Nathan. Yeah, well, I mean, the Coriolis effect, as you know, I never use the word force because I totally disagree with it being called a pseudo force. But the Coriolis effect is just a visual effect. So it's no different than you being in a car, seeing a signpost come towards you at 40 miles an hour, but it's because the car is driving at 40 miles an hour.
Yes.
It's the same thing, just in a circular fashion. It's no different than that.
Precisely. Exactly. You're in a car, if you want to detail it from a sealed car. Yeah, it's the effect of the signs on the motorway looking like they're coming towards you. Now, they're fixed into the ground, and it's the not actual effect of that sign coming towards you that's a force when described that way. The force of the sign that's concreted into the ground coming towards you. No. In reality, you're moving towards it. And it's that not actual deflection of the sign. It's deflecting, getting bigger and getting closer as it comes towards you with the Coriolis force, that concreted into the ground sign that isn't actually moving. But it is, it's got Coriolis force, right? Yeah, that's you going towards it. Any more on this?
One other thing.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go on, Brian, and then John.
It would work better if John responds after this, because it's about what John says about the R value as far as axial rotation goes. We don't need to know an R value to know that we're moving and something else is not above us, if you understand what I mean. So we don't need to know an R value to, like, we could state we're moving at 15 degrees an hour because the sun moves at 15 degrees an hour. But that doesn't give it, let's say, a miles, a size over a course of a day of a circle of miles. It just gives it degrees. So we could not know a radius, but still be able to make a claim that we're moving at 15 degrees an hour.
Not quite true.
Yeah,
not quite true. As soon as you ascribe that 15 degrees an hour, then you can only calculate it out to the circumferential value and radius value thereafter. that is ascribed to globe Earth. That has to be the case. Now you're saying, well, you just haven't calculated it at that point, but you're making the assertion when you say that Earth is spherical, turning at 15 degrees an hour because you see the sun moving at 15 degrees an hour, at which point you absolutely do need an R value. The fact that you haven't calculated, you just made the presupposition it's Earth turning, not the sun, doesn't mean that that doesn't give you a spherical surface that absolutely, without doubt, requires an R value to make the assertion, with any validity at least.
Well, I don't think so, because 15 degrees an hour is a degree movement. It doesn't stay at a speed, so it doesn't give you a size. So you don't need to know the radius to know that you're moving at 15 degrees an hour.
No, you don't need to. No, I agree. You don't need to. But at that point, it does tie it down to an absolute size with an absolute R value. Once you make that assertion, you don't have to calculate it out. You can just make the begging the question assertion that Earth's turning at 15 degrees an hour. But there are certain mathematical consequences that follow, and the R value is one of them.
I leave John go ahead. I'm not quite. I leave John go ahead. I'm wasting something after him.
Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, I think I got a better example than Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about the football going through the goalposts. What about when they claim they send rockets into the second law of thermodynamics violation space vacuum? Doesn't the rocket go straight up, but it appears to go to the horizon because we're turning beneath it? Isn't that the accepted claim? If you wouldn't expect to see deviation.
I can't remember if that's the exact claim. If there's any ballers, are there any ballers in Discord? Because if there are, without being held to task on your Fundy Sky belief, does anybody know the answer to this question? Is it claimed that you will see a not actual deflection from the ground as a rocket takes off? Is that the claim? Because I don't know that's the case. That might be a second-hand anti-flat Earth or Joe Normie who doesn't understand their actual claim, rather than an official NASA claim.
Yeah, I've heard.
I'm pretty
that
sure
before.
Remember when the
Hold on, just one sec, John.
Yeah, remember when
Hold on one sec, John. Go ahead, Eli.
Yeah, before flat Earth was a thing, that's what I thought. That the rockets appear to have a tail that's curving because of its energy.
No, sure, I appreciate that, Eli. But while my brain goes to that also, I hesitate to say that is the official line, because I don't know that's the official line. So if anybody does know what the official line, do we experience Coriolis deflection, that is to say, a curved path in a straight travelling rocket because we're turning beneath it? Is that the official line? Now, it should be, because Coriolis effect is very much the official line of globe Earth. Therefore, if you're going to have an orbital motion and a transition, even if they're going to use I'm going to claim Earth spinning with the atmosphere, at some point they transition to orbital motion, according to their Fundy R belief and their orbital mechanics that they beg the question of when they send up penises into the sky. Either way, they've got to have some transition stage where Earth's turning beneath the rocket. But where is that claim? Is it claimed that Coriolis effect is observed the moment the thing takes off? Is it not discussed? If not, why not? You know, this is quite an interesting... Who brought up this? Who asked?
I know the
John
answer.
did.
Good
I had a
point, John.
baller tell me that when
Hold on,
Well,
Neil.
just
Just
bring it
let
up.
John
Do you
respond.
remember there was a video where a kid seen a rocket take off and it went in a parabolic arc, an apparent parabolic arc according to his parents, because the Earth was turning, and that's why the rocket disappeared into the
I
horizon.
love that video.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got...
I was going to say the same
Yeah.
thing. I was told by ballers, just shoot up fireworks. When you shoot those rockets, they're not going straight up because the Earth is turning. That's why they're curving.
Sure. But that's ballers. And
Yeah,
some
but
video of some guy telling his son that, which I've also used as an example of, you know, parental brainwashing. But ultimately, it doesn't establish the official position in this regard. And I'll say it the third and last time, and then I'll move on. It would be nice to know the official position in regards to Coriolis effect when it comes to rockets. We don't know the official position. We know they're not visiting a sky vacuum, so let's ask about that next. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container? Go ahead, Eli.
No, there is no evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container.
And I
Well-
also say no to that. And good morning, everybody.
Hey, Chocolate.
Hey, Chocolate.
You.
You. Yeah, electrostatic pressure, a barometer.
Barometer doesn't measure electrostatic pressure.
What? Barometer?
No. Electrostatic pressure without a container.
What's electrostatic pressure?
Did you just say pressure?
Hold on. What's electrostatic pressure?
Electrostatic. That's where all the molecules stick together with electric, and you can measure the pressure without a container.
But an electrostatic force isn't gas. Might involve gas, but it's not gas. The force you're describing is, well, it's electrostatic.
Yeah, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate because I had somebody, Zanuck, tell me that we could have gas pressure with electrostatics, even though he said pressure, and you still need a container to register the pressure.
Is that the point? Good old Zanuck, he's still at it, huh?
Jay or Payne?
Could I say something about the container? Now that Zanuck's name was brought into it, we can throw that claim away immediately. The container, I have ballers saying to me, right, stupidly, if gas doesn't have weight, how come when you put it into a container, it adds weight to the container? What it's doing is adding density to the overall density, adding to the overall density of the container. But it doesn't have a singular downward vector. The thing about gas in the container, although it's slightly off the point of the question, but the thing about gas in a container, when I release gas from a container, it will go on all vectors. It won't just go only down, right? Debunking all claims of a force of gravity. And it won't just go only up, debunking all claims of a sky vacuum. So,
or the output of air, like if you orient the valve down, up, any direction, the output of the air pressure will still be the same.
Yeah, inside the container before your
That's
example
just a
begins.
guess, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, exactly, Eli. Before your example even begins, their assertion is to say once you add an increased amount of pressure to a container, therefore you've got gas go down, go boom, boom, more weight. No, the container itself you can weigh and see that you've put an increased amount of stuff into that containment, making the container weigh more. However, inside the container, the gas, which is then just at a higher pressure, is still expanding or trying to escape. In other words, it's at a higher pressure and pressing equally on all sides of the container in all directions. It's not settling at the bottom with weight. You're just forcing more stuff into a solid container so you can then arbitrarily apply your downward vector to it. Meanwhile, the gas inside that container is at a higher pressure. It's the wrong convention to describe it with weight because there's gas that's going up. So what are you going to do? Chuck a scale in there and go, look, there's more stuff pressing down. Oh yeah, well there's also more stuff pressing up. Are they not included in your weight? Well, it doesn't work like that, does it, when there's stuff that's going in the opposite direction?
Hey, I have a correction for what I said
We
a
tried
moment
to
ago.
explain that to him, but he kept on calling us, names because he was trying to say that the weight is pushing down, which would cause a scale to read, and it was just, I don't know, it was hilarious. He was really funny guy. First time I ever talked to him.
Objects weigh more in a vacuum. Throw that one at him, and all he'll come up with is buoyancy. Buoyancy will be a displacement up the way. So he's claiming the air would displace up the way. So if objects weigh more in a vacuum, it means there is no such thing as a force of gravity adding weight to air.
Moving on. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
I have a correction for what I said earlier, but I looked it up. They actually claim that it's orbital mechanics is the reason the rocket moves in a parabolic arc.
Yeah, I knew that bit.
Orbit.
That bit I knew. I knew that was their official rhetoric because it's going in an orbit. But at some point before there's a transition stage, right? So if you're saying, well, their explanation for the curved trajectory is that it's in an orbital path, fine. Yeah, once it leaves whatever boundary layer they're going to assert, then it can reach orbital motion in their begging the question sphere Earth that hasn't got an hour value and takes place in the second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum. But there's a transition point, isn't there? Yeah? If that rhetoric relies upon, well, Earth and atmosphere move together, so no Neil deGrasse Tyson Coriolis effect then. Or, no, Earth will immediately start turning underneath at whatever rate, miles per hour, you've got at that latitude. Okay. Well, if that's the case, then you've got a 15 degrees an hour turn of the Earth underneath the rocket as soon as it leaves the ground. Therefore, that's in line with the globe Earth claim of Coriolis deflection. So we just need to know where, after it leaves the ground, they stand in terms of whether or not it'll display Coriolis effect, because it goes without saying that it's going to be in an orbit once it gets to wherever they're claiming it is, which is a fake place called space.
Well, just before we move on to the sun question, it has to be their claim.
Correct.
It's not as if whether it is or isn't. It has to be.
That's correct. That's correct. No matter exactly. That's why I'm saying no matter what any normie says in terms of, well, yeah, Earth's turning underneath. It's like, yeah, okay. The official globe claim is that there is Coriolis effect. That is the claim. That would be a 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns beneath the rocket. That is the official globe claim. But is there anywhere where NASA state it officially, as opposed to the official globe claim is, and therefore Brian is absolutely correct. They can't not be claiming that. That's fact.
It'd be akin to us claiming that the Earth is not flat, but also flat. If they're claiming a rotating Earth, then that has to be their claim.
I showed those to my wife. She couldn't quite believe her eyes. So I detailed it. I was like, on Taboo Conspiracy, if you want to check this out, it's on one of his flat Earth / globe debunking. He's got a list of about 20 things, maybe a bit less, 16 or something like that. Anyway, one of them has got just a great big stream of NASA documents where they just detail how the equations and maths and whatever it is they're doing in the description requires Earth to be flat and stationary. And it's disclaimed by NASA over and over and over and over and over. And I'm just showing her all these documents, and I watched her eyes and it fall out of her head. It was really funny. Anyway.
There's a guy who was on Globebusters. I don't know how legit the guy is, but he claims to be a master gunner. And he was showing some tables for range tables and stuff like that. And he was laying out the difference between the handbooks, like for snipers, and tables for gunnery and stuff like that. How there's standard and non-standard. The non-standard includes a Coriolis force, right? This nonsense. But nobody ever uses them. You only ever use the standard, where there is no Coriolis effect, or what they're calling force, included.
Yeah, because in reality, it's not experience. That's what we point out, and it's just left to the anti-flat Earths to defend how we don't have it and why we don't have it. You wouldn't expect to see drift. And no, I don't expect to see anything. I'm not claiming it. The globe does. So you're telling us that we're not expecting to see it doesn't sit in line with NASA. Their official documentation has, how did you describe it, standard forms that explain that you take Earth to be flat and stationary. Now, they've also got a non-standard version that includes your fundy beliefs that Earth's a sphere and you've got Coriolis effect and we're spinning and all that shite. But that's non-standard, because Earth isn't any of those things. Earth's flat and stationary, as it must be navigated and negotiated.
They don't like to.
Well, you can drive your car. Sorry.
They don't like to tie their. It's all right. I'm on Discord. They don't like to tie their belief in the globe to the claims that people have made about the globe. The people who say that this is a fact, that we live on this globe. Like they'll say, like for instance, a guy said the horizon is as far as you can see out into the distance where the water meets the, and I'm like, yeah, but not for a globe though, because on a globe it's actually 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height as a consequence of the geometric shape that you think you live on. Very distinct difference.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
We never
That's
did the distance
absolutely
to the sun.
ridiculous.
My bad. Sorry, chocolate.
Sorry, Brian.
I was just reminding Nathan that we didn't do the distance to the sun. But sorry.
I said it. No one answered, right? Surely I said it.
You said it, but then we got taken backwards, back to the other Coriolis point.
That's
And now
pretty-
I've
What is the sun
interrupted this.
anyway?
It's important, so let's ask it again. Any evidence of the distance to the sun? We'll come back to molten iron cores now.
What
That
is
hasn't
the
got
sun?
answered. Yeah, thanks, Brian.
What is it?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? You've been doing flat Earth debate for over 6 years. You don't know what the sun is yet?
What? Well, my question is this: what is the supposed evidence for the distance to the sun?
It's just an extrapolation based on R.
We don't
I
have
mean,
any
for the
R
new
value.
for the new listener, what does that mean?
The R value, Earth
Give us a
radius,
little
is going to give you your distance to the sun.
Yeah, the black swan debunks the claimed two-way speed of light, because that's all. It all starts with a radius. All starts with the radius, and orbit, stuff like that.
Orbit being another assumption. Let's cover it right now. Any evidence of R? Earth radius.
Negative.
Nope.
That means no gravity either, because you need Earth. You need a radius for gravity, right?
Look, you're bringing on too many questions too soon. Let's cover molten iron core. We've got through the sun. We'll plough through this together. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Stupidest thing I've ever heard.
That was where we got last
So
time.
technically,
Any advancements on it, stupid?
Well, yeah, because technically it's a reverse dynamo. Because a dynamo works by magnetic creating electric, whereas the Glober claim is there's electric creating magnetic. That's the actual claim. You know, a moving electric field charge can create a magnetic field, but you need the magnetic field to create the electric charge. If you know what I mean. Like that's how a dynamo works. It's magnetic field creates electric charge. You know, a dynamo on a bike, you put a light on your bike. But their claim is the opposite. It's electric charge creates a magnetic field. So where is the electric charge coming from? But it don't matter. There's all nonsense on it. And just throw that out there.
There's a reason it's self-perpetuating molten iron core in the title, or in the question, I should say. So yeah, it's a good point. Right, you ready, Neil? Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Negative.
Any valid description of gravity would be great to start with.
And you need a radius value for that as well.
No, this normally
Yes,
triggers
John.
somebody. Go ahead, Brian.
I was just saying John is correct when he says there's no valid description, because you can't define gravity. You'd have to know. How can you define something you can't harness? Or, you know what I mean? How do you define something? You can't see it. It's just a claim. It's just a claim. That's all it is. Gravity is simply no more than just a random claim.
It's a word, like abracadabra is a word. You just say it and magical stuff happens. That's it.
Or a la peanut butter sandwiches.
That's one of my, again,
Or that.
wife getting 2 mentions in one show. So one of her favourite lines that obviously lets me know that she pays a reasonable amount of attention to the show is you can think of it as a. So if something's not got done, well, you can think of it as being done. She uses that line all the time. She quotes Musa. She probably doesn't even know who it is that's saying it. She knows the context it was in originally, but she'll often chuckle along and say, well, you can think of it as having been done, or you can, you know, whatever is imagination land explanation rather than the reality of it not happening. Well, you can think of it as a force. Gravity, that is.
Well, if you never define your terms, it's just as reasonable to say that the Snarflegurp in Jajabor is responsible for the Hoopadanoots. You know, that's basically what they're. I mean, that's what they're. If they never define their terms.
Good one, Brian.
If they never define their terms. But yeah, if they never define their terms, they're just saying nonsense if they don't define their terms.
Well, you know how they feel about the definitions of words.
Words have no meaning to them.
No, the definitions of words are meaningless. That's great.
Yeah,
So if the
what does
definitions
the word
are
meaningless
meaningless, then words have no meaning.
it's just semantics.
Yeah. What does the word meaningless mean?
It's just
You know what I mean?
semantics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Did you ever
using.
think that they'd get to this point where they would say things like this, like definitions of words are meaningless, and you know, ask us for citations for claims that they claim are visible, and ask us why we claim that these things are visible?
No, and I think
Why
we're all
would
shocked
we
when they
expect
say
to
it.
see things that they claim that we expect to see? Like, what the hell? Did you ever think that they would get to this point? Because this is crazy.
I remember
Where
when I
are
was
they?
just
Where are the Globers?
I remember when I was just listening, these things are shocking to me when they would come out with stuff like that. I'd be like, you gotta be kidding me. Are they serious?
I'll tell you what, Chocolate, they're too quickly embarrassed now. Nobody wants to come here and be embarrassed.
No, that's not the reason. Nathan shows me and boycotted. Come on. You know the reason why.
I don't doubt that, but you know, it's because they're being embarrassed. It's not because there's any legitimate reason.
No, that's the real reason. They claim
But
they're boycotting the show.
Any more on this? Any more on gravity? If not,
Yeah, the word, well, I do have something to say about gravity, but just want to say the word meaningless in that context has no meaning. Because words don't have any. Yeah, just on gravity. If a force of gravity was real, let's say a force pre-1915 was real, then objects would weigh less in a vacuum, but they don't, they weigh more. So that's the end of that. That's the end of their pressure gradient claim. You know, that's the end of all claims involving a force of gravity. There is no such thing as a force of gravity giving weight to anything.
Well, a good baller would say that gravity's not a force at that point.
alrighty then.
Wouldn't help them out.
What use is it for anything then?
It's magic.
Well, all you got to do is convolute mass, energy. Don't ever define them. Just let people think of whatever they want to think of it as meaning, so that, you know, then it's in their minds. That's the only place that it can exist.
I see. Can I think of it as a force? Hang on, I'll just ask George Musa.
While shaving.
Any
You know, on Friday I was playing pool, billiards, and you know, we had this crazy shot, and the balls landed so close to each other, and there was probably, I don't know, I'd say about half-inch gap. And we actually ended up putting the game on pause to go light a fire and, you know, have a couple brews by the fire. And when we came back to the game, the balls were still half an inch there. It separated. I think of that as like the Cavendish, where, you know, mass attracts mass. But those balls were there the entire time and didn't move at all. No attraction.
You didn't do it
Alrighty.
right, that's why.
Yeah, mass doesn't attract mass.
What's mass?
Yeah. Also, mass is another one of those terms just described by John as being kept convoluted, allowed to be described in your mind as whatever you like. So yeah, what's mass?
Well, it has a history, doesn't it? It has a pre-Einstein and post-Einstein description. Pre-Einstein is that mass is weightless unless given weight by a force of gravity. And post-Einstein is mass is a quantitative measure of inertia. Two completely different things, if you look at them correctly.
According to Google, mass, a coherent, typically large body of matter with no definite shape. A mass of curly hair. Wow, that sums it up.
Yeah, they either describe it as an amount of stuff which is mole, or its resistance to acceleration, which is inertia. Which is, correct me if I'm wrong, an equivocation fallacy. When you've got one word with two definitions, two meanings. So there we'll equivocate between these two different definitions of this single word mass. So any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics.
Not yet.
Yeah, I wouldn't be waiting for it. It's not possible for it to happen. If they are to use scientific method, then there can't be ever.
As long as there's heliocentrists in charge of those fields, it'll never happen anyway. But I can guarantee that.
Well, they can't manipulate their effect. They're dependent variable. They can't, they can't manipulate what they claim to be the cause of the effect. So they can't cause the effect. They can only make a claim about it. So they can't ever have a viable hypothesis.
Well, they can't ever describe it correctly either, because if they did, they'd have to use a flat Earth as part of their description, and that'll never happen.
That's prehistoric science you're talking about. There's a new science now. Observe and declare.
That's not science. Are we done? Is that the end of housekeeping? If so, 10th, are you there?
Yes.
Can you look up a Bible verse?
Give me the verse and give me a minute. I'm posting something. Yes.
Psalm 68:4.
Psalm 68:4. All right.
So this is I've been e-begging people to help me pay a bill that still hasn't come, and I'm definitely not going to chase it till at least payday. But there we go. My projector's in for repair, and as a result, I know I'm going to get a bill that I just don't have the money to cover. So I've been saying, please smash the PayPal link, help me out. Hopefully, I won't have to run a GoFundMe if a few people give me money on PayPal, and a couple of people have, to their credit, given me money on PayPal. One of them was like, "Here's this money to help you out because you've been e-begging like mad. However, your task as a result of me giving you this money is to read out this verse." Now, I'm not going to butcher reading out a verse. I'm going to ask 10th man to do it, but that's good enough. It's going to get read out on the show, on the live show. So I'm not going to mention my bad for interrupting the beginning of your sentence there, Neil. Go ahead.
Sorry, no, you gave it the 10th. I'm just saying I know it by heart, so I'm waiting for him.
Well, no, if you know it by heart, I'm glad you interrupted. I will take it back. My bad, Neil. If you know it by heart, if you can, yeah, go ahead.
Sing unto God, sing praises to his name, extol him that rideth upon the heavens by his name, Jah, and rejoice before him.
Epic. Well, thank you very much. Mission accomplished. I'm not going to read out his name.
One of our songs in choir.
Fair enough.
Good job, Neil.
Would you like to explain the sentiment, Neil?
By his name, Jah. Well, it's just...
Excellent. Thank you for explaining it.
How'd you like my ventriloquist
Are you trying to say I'm a dummy?
No, good job.
Other than giving praise to God, what I don't understand the sentiment. Maybe I'm missing something obvious.
Well,
Or
he
maybe
rides
that's...
upon the heavens. They're trying to say he rides upon the heavens. Right? Flat Earth debate, the heavens.
No, I'm still not following. Nope, it's not going to get broken down for me, but I appreciate that it's got read out on the show as I was specifically asked for that. I'm glad I remembered, because it's not the kind of thing I'd remember. Although, that said, I did get money, so yeah, I probably would have remembered. Smash the PayPal link, people.
You know, the feeling you get when you look up now as a flat earther and see the wonder that is the sky. You know, just the amazing feat of creation. I think it's talking about that.
Oh, I like that a lot. That's something I've done consistently throughout my life. Before Flat Earth, during and after. Looking up. Now it's even better because I've got kids, so I can share it with them and see them seeing it for the first time. So recently I went on a holiday and we were in the woods, but it was very clear, low light pollution, and you could look up and see the amazing stars through the trees. And just seeing the look in my kids' eyes as they were staring at, in some cases, seeing the reflection of the stars in their little eyeballs, it was amazing. But that's something that I held a lot of joy in doing. And again, even when I was a baller, I'd look up and go, I wonder what it is. Maybe that's why I'm a flat earther. I always questioned with their explanations for it to a certain level. I know Chocolate's got similar stories about his past in terms of you're shaking your head whilst maybe doing the same thing, looking up at the stars and going, yeah, I wonder what they are. Because even in their paradigm, right, they're so far, they don't really know. But anyway.
Well, my girlfriend the other day, there was some video playing on YouTube, and a quick clip was a time lapse of the star. And she said, "See, ever since you messed my head up with this flat Earth BS, the everything like the star trails don't even look real." But it was the star trails. So I was thinking, why? Because you see it the way they look, meaning like they all seem to be mechanical. Well, maybe not. They seem like they're moving in lockstep. It doesn't seem like what you would imagine. That's right. That's right. It is a machine up there. It does look like that. You guys know what I'm talking about. The sky looks like it's spinning like a carousel.
Yep.
Sure, when you've got a heliocentric idea of the motion and then you see a star trail video, you go, hang on a second. Aren't we supposed to be whirling around the sun, which is whirling around the great attractor? Shouldn't there be a lot more motion in these stars? What's going on? Why is it just a perfect spiral with the odd minor exception?
I think, Eli, what your girlfriend was saying to you, without realizing it, I know you know, but I think what Eli was detailing there is, I think what his girlfriend was saying to him was, reality doesn't look like what I believe or was told to believe.
Right.
This is not what
Yes.
See, that is what I
Absolutely.
perceived Elon Musk to be saying when he said, it's real because it looks so fake. So when you look at things like through the eye of your girlfriend, Eli, the star trails not making any sense in a heliocentric model, she then literally described them as looking fake, right? That is, as I say, the sentiment I took from Elon, or maybe the sentiment he meant to imply when he said that, trying to be clever. Knows damn well it's fake. It's going to a sky vacuum, lying bastard. But anyway, that was the sentiment he was hoping to imply. Lying bastard.
Well, since around the year 2000, the world and people who've grown up in it, let's say people who were young in the late 90s and grew up through the past 21 years, went to school and college and university and whatever, and they're in their early 20s. Like, basically, they've been shown computer-generated space for all that time. Like, before that time, they had a dodgy video that was supposed to be on the side of rockets and things of the sky vacuum that NASA would give it. But the generation that is now in their early 20s, all they've seen is CGI space. So I'm not pointing at Eli's girlfriend when I'm saying this, because I obviously don't know the lady. But when you show them reality, it's like, this is not what the CGI looks like. You know, reality must be wrong because the CGI is what we were shown it to be. You know, not going to way. It's like we were shown one thing, but reality is not fitting it.
Right, exactly. So, to give it a more grounded comparison, if, let's say, you're watching Aquaman or something like that, something that takes place in a kind of underwater setting, and what you see it as is kind of like the little bubbles and everyone you can see, you've still got a horizon, you can see the people in the distance around the rocks underwater in the corner. And then you cut to somebody who goes under the water and it's just basically black. There's just very little to see. You know what I mean? For whatever reason, there's just not a lot to see. And someone looks at that and goes, that's not like I imagined it. Well, if that person was polluted with the idea that that CGI representation in Aquaman was actually how it looks underwater, then you're going to think that that's how it looks. And when you see something that isn't like that, that becomes the non-reality, even though that's actual footage. But that's the reality we're in terms of the millennials. And you're right, that's all they've been exposed to. High quality CGI at the cutting edge of cinematography. That's what NASA are. They always have been. They're not cutting edge in terms of space travel, they're cutting edge in terms of cinematography. And if that's your reality, when you see something different, you go, oh, that makes sense.
See, the realization happened in maybe about 2015, and you know it because of the reaction of the naysayers. And what I'm talking about is high altitude balloon footage. I didn't think it was black. Most people didn't think. When I showed my girlfriend that, she's like, "What's this?" And I was like, "That's a high altitude balloon." She's like, "That looks crazy," and I was like, "Yeah, I know." Like, and this is why. Like, if everyone didn't have the reaction of "That's not what I expected it to look like," then Neil deGrasse Tyson's sentiment about it looking flat from the eye uh, from the from the Felix Baumgartner jump, that would have never been shared. Okay, we wouldn't have all of these anti-flat earthers trying to say, "Well, yeah, it looks like it's." You can if you count the pixels and you can see that it's like all of this weird stuff when it just doesn't look like what we all expected. So you either have these explanations for why we shouldn't believe our lying eyes, or you have Neil deGrasse Tyson straight up saying, "Yeah, no, it's flat as far as you can see, bro."
That I could do a whole show on that 1.5, 2 minute piece from Neil deGrasse Tyson. It's probably less than that. It's probably 30 seconds worth. I could probably do a whole hour show on that one little magic trick. You know, if the paradigm does change and the Western world becomes aware that they're actually on a stationary flat plane as opposed to the lies of space and sky vacuums and sphere Earth and orbits and all the other nonsense, if that ever happens, that particular magic trick by Neil deGrasse Tyson will go down in history as the best magic trick he's pulled off to date. It's exceptional. It's so multi-layered, very clever. It's, you know, I'm not a deGrasse Tyson fan, but in terms of magic tricks, in terms of complexity and working for multiple different types of people at multiple different types of levels, it's excellent. It's just a superb magic trick. That stuff is flat, slap, slap, slap on the beach ball shaped like a globe. That's a fantastic magic trick. You know, it's things like, in some ways, the heliocentric model itself is you know, majestic to behold in many ways. You know, I'm not going to deny the complexity of the heliocentric model, and there's a lot of admiration that you can behold for it, even if you're not under the misapprehension that that's reified into the Earth you're standing on, because it isn't. Doesn't mean you can't go out. It's still pretty cool, right? And it is. However, there's certain things from our opponent's side, in this case globe believers, not anti-flat earthers like deGrasse Tyson, that you can go, man, it's a complex magic trick that we're all under, but it takes little bits like that to really prop it up with style. You know, that stuff is flat. Magic tricks like that, just the linguistic complexity and the multiple levels that it's working at, I have to give a wry grin and go, cool, man. If that's you that came up with that, Tyson, my hat is off to you. Probably an entire production crew and script writers and all the rest of it that came up with that little piece, you know, that little pre-rehearsed little bit that he did. You know, it might just be him, but maybe, I don't know. You know, if it is, then, you know, my hat is off to you, regardless of how much you're on our opposing side and deceiving the world with heliocentric nonsense. That was a great trick. I can't deny it.
Well, I got a slide in Master B for you, and we'll delve into this magic trip.
Can I just say something just before?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just very quickly. What Neil deGrasse Tyson said there is what he basically said is you're only ever going to see flat on this massive sphere. You know, he's taking away the expectation.
No. He says you can't see the Earth curve from 2 millimeters above this beach ball. That stuff is flat. Slap, slap, slap. Well, what he's doing is he's forcing both sides, one with a little dangly carrot of hearing the word flat from his mouth when describing the Earth, that the horizon, Earth curve in his example, cannot be seen from 2 millimeters above the beach ball, which is a physical sphere with a geometric limitation to the view if you're an ant on the beach ball. Well, that's a clever trick to get you as a flat earther to not notice that when you start talking about how the horizon does or doesn't bend at altitude, that you're actually in line with his reification of a physical geometric sphere edge for the horizon, when the horizon's not Earth curve. But you still find yourself saying that it's too far, or not bending, or bending, missing the fact that it's not Earth curve. The horizon isn't Earth curve. But deGrasse Tyson's magic trick gets both sides, flat Earth and globe Earth, to reify the beach ball into the globe and reify the horizon into a physical geometric limitation to your view, and then have you argue amongst yourselves about whether or not it should bend or shouldn't bend at altitude. It's a genius magic trick, you know.
That's what I meant, though. That's what I said. Like I said, he said you're only ever going to see flat on this massive sphere. You know, he's taken away your expectation. He's taken away the expectation to see the curve on this massive sphere. So I'm still on a big sphere, but there'll never be a curve visible. No matter how high I go, it will always be flat on this massive sphere.
Precisely.
That's what he was.
You got the slide up?
Yep.
All right. Here's some angles: acute angle, right angle, obtuse angle, straight angle, reflex angle, and a full rotation. There's a protractor there, top right. That is how a sextant works. That's the principle of a sextant right there. Perpendicular is the zenith. It is the vertical that meets the horizontal. And there's an image of a fellow using a sextant. What's he shooting at, Brian?
Horizon.
Horizon. What's horizon? Horizontal. What is dip correction for anyway? Dip correction is for you to get horizontal. It's for you to get to sea level. So that stuff is flat. Thank you, Neil deGrasse Tyson, because the sextant wouldn't work unless that stuff was flat.
And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you first and foremost to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the PayPal link to help me out with my enormous bill that's on its way, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
wrong with me? What a lovely day!